Four losses now on the season for the Sacramento Kings. Four very similar games with different mistakes. In their meeting with the Jazz in Utah, once again, a winnable game for the Kings. But the mistake to bite them this time was defensive rebounding. We'll talk about the abysmal performance on the glass for the Kings, mainly by the Kings guards. Plus, De'Aaron Fox's struggles continue. We'll hear from Luke Walton and Tyrese Haliburton. It's all on today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season and all off season. If you're looking for in-depth analysis, game-by-game breakdowns, highlights, interviews with local and national experts, full coverage of your Sacramento Kings from January through December, this is the place for you, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I've been a Sacramento sports media member, Sacramento Kings media member for the last 7 years. This is my 8th season covering the Kings, formerly for Sports 1140 KHTK Radio in Sacramento, now with ABC 10 television. And the Kings, they're 3-4, which is disappointing considering that in all 7 of the games that the Kings have played, they have had good chances to win. And this game in Utah was no different. Now, there are positives that we are going to talk about, but as you can tell by the title of this podcast, moral victories aren't a thing anymore for the Sacramento Kings. So there is a way to pull positives out of losses, to talk about things the Kings have done right for the course of this season, even in losses, and still not make it sound like it makes up for the fact that the Kings have lost games and are now sitting on a losing record. Now, 3-4, not the end of the world. A very winnable game tomorrow night at home. They finished their road trip, a 4-game road trip, 2-2. It's always good if you can go 500 or better during any road trip. They come back home, had to defend their home floor, taking on a New Orleans Pelicans team that they beat in New Orleans last week as part of this road trip. So a very good chance that this Kings team could be back to 500 at 4-4 by the end of tomorrow night. But that's tomorrow. Let's talk about tonight's game because no moral victories. Truthfully, no moral victories. Like I said in the introduction, the Sacramento Kings had a chance to win this game. They were in it. They've been in every single game. Every single game that they've lost, they've had a chance to win, but different mistakes have cost them. The biggest mistake that we've seen most consistently this season has been the Kings' turnovers and allowing points off of turnovers. The problem with tonight's game in Utah was that the Sacramento Kings could not keep the Utah Jazz off the glass. The Jazz are already a very solid rebounding team, but they shouldn't be as good as they were out rebounding the Kings 59-38, including 15 offensive rebounds. The Jazz scored 33 second chance points in this game. If you're going to give a team like the Utah Jazz multiple opportunities to score, you're going to give multiple opportunities to Donovan Mitchell. You're going to give multiple opportunities to Mike Conley, multiple opportunities to Rudy Gobert, and the rest of that Jazz roster. They're going to make you pay. And it wasn't just like, oh, this was a issue for the Kings for a portion of this game. In the fourth quarter, they struggled to keep the Jazz off the glass. No, it was all night long. And you're going to hear Luke Walton talk about at the end of the podcast today. He puts the blame on the guards. The guards were not rebounding well, a perfect representation of that. Donovan Mitchell had 5 offensive rebounds in this game. 5 offensive rebounds for a guard. That absolutely cannot happen. 33 points. Second chance points for the Utah Jazz. There's the difference in the game right there. But that being said, even with how bad the Kings were on the glass, even with all those second chance points, even with De'Aaron Fox playing poorly once again, and we're going to talk about De'Aaron plenty in the next segment, the Kings were still right there. Not a moral victory, just a fact. They were right there. And the truth be told is, if the Kings played with this effort in their matinee game on Halloween in Dallas against the Mavericks, they probably win that game. The Kings played with great effort against the Utah Jazz, And it just wasn't enough. The Jazz are a really good team, arguably the best team in the Western Conference. At least they were during the regular season last year. They have high expectations. They expect a deep playoff run. They're an NBA Finals competitor or hopeful. They're expecting to be in that picture, in that conversation. They're going for championship this season. The Kings obviously aren't there yet. So when it gets into the fourth quarter, when it gets into winning time, the Utah Jazz know how to win these games, and the Sacramento Kings don't yet. I actually asked Luke Walton about that, what the Jazz do, how they got to that point, how the Kings can get to that point, and you'll hear his answer to that later on. Mike Conley was sensational in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. Luke Walton was very frustrated after the game because the Kings' game plan for how to handle Mike Conley in the pick and roll was not followed, apparently. The Kings did not do a good job handling him coming off of screens. He got way too many open looks. Mike Conley was an all-star last season for a reason. He's just somehow still underrated, even with the all-star nod. Now, he was an all-star write-in, I think, or he got in because, was it like Devin Booker or somebody who didn't play in the all-star game because of injury last season? But Mike Conley went 11 of 19, 6 of 9 from three-point range. He finished with 30 points. Donovan Mitchell had an amazing third quarter for the Utah Jazz after running into the tunnel at the end of the second quarter. Looked like he tweaked his ankle, but he came back. He was great. Had 36 points. So many second chance opportunities for both of those guys. And the more opportunities you give them, the more they're going to make you pay. Now, the Jazz struggled a ton shooting the basketball from three-point range in the first half. In the second half, really at the start of the third quarter, they weren't missing anything from three-point range. And the Kings, quite honestly, defensively, were giving up far too many wide open looks from three. The defense not nearly as good as it was against the Utah Jazz in the home opener early on in the season, giving up 119 points. That's very similar to last season's averages. That's simply not good enough. Gave up 33 points in the first quarter, 32 points in the third quarter, nearly 30 points in the fourth quarter. And once again, for the Kings offensively, the fourth quarter was their worst quarter, scoring just 26 points after 29 in the first, 30 in the second, and 28 in the third. So still they were right there, though. Still they were right there, and that's a lot to do with the play of Harrison Barnes. He once again led the team in scoring. After struggling against the Dallas Mavericks, he got right back to being the Kings' best player this season. The Kings had 7 players in double-figure scoring to their credit, and Luke Walton ended up going with an 8-man rotation tonight, which I thought was interesting. I actually asked him about this, too, in post-game, because it's the first night of the Kings' first back-to-back of the season. And, I mean, I know you're trying to win these games, but going with an 8-man rotation, that's putting heavy minutes on everybody. The fewest minutes played was 15 minutes by Alex Len. Everybody else played 29 minutes or more in this game. That might have an effect on what Walton's rotation looks like tomorrow night against the Pelicans. Maybe we will see some tired legs tomorrow night. So that was a gamble that I can't say didn't pay off, even if the Kings lost this game, because we don't know the effect that it's going to have on tomorrow night's game. But the reason why this was an 8-man rotation was Terrence Davis didn't play. And I talked about on yesterday's Locked On Kings podcast with Kenny Caraway the possibility of Terrence Davis being moved out of the rotation because of his struggles. He did not play in this game. And instead of replacing him, like Kenny and I discussed, maybe playing Marvin Bagley there, maybe playing Lewis King there, maybe playing Chimezie Metu there, instead, the Kings just decided to not play anybody there and just split up what would have been Terrence Davis's minutes amongst everybody else. And to the Kings' credit, 7 players in double figure scoring, but with the exception of Harrison Barnes, nobody really stepped up. That might not be a little fair, because Buddy Hield had a really good game, especially in the second half, shooting the ball 5 of 7 from three-point range, 6 of 10 from the field. He struggled against the Dallas Mavericks as well on Halloween. He looked really good in this game, had a couple of big threes in the second half, to which he shushed the Utah Jazz crowd. Kings were getting a little bit of momentum there. He helped keep the Kings in the game as the Jazz nearly made it a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter at one point. Buddy kept the Kings in it. So he was solid. Harrison Barnes was the best player. Everybody else scored double digits, but nothing really stood out. I do want to talk about, though, the play of Mo Harkless. He finished with 12 points, played just under 30 minutes, 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from three-point range. Coming into this game, Mo had scored just 2 points in the last 2 games combined. He had 0 points, or he had 2 points against Dallas, and he had 0 points against the New Orleans Pelicans. So, and I talked about on yesterday's pod, even though offense is not Harkless's game and you're not looking for Harkless for offense, you need more than 2 points in 2 games from a starting 4. And that's arguably the weakest position for the Sacramento Kings, is that 4 spot. Actually, I don't think it's arguable. It's definitely their weakest position right now. But Mo Harkless is out there to be that consistent defensive body that he provides. He has an established role. but you still need, for the sake of everybody else, for the sake of your spacing, you need Mo to hit shots when he gets looks. And he did that tonight. 2 of 4 from 3-point range. Have to respect it. 12 points. Continue to play as expected on the defensive end of the floor. The Kings were without Mo Harkless when they took on the Jazz in Sacramento earlier on in the season. So we saw the effect that he had actually playing in this game for the Kings. Wasn't enough to ultimately get the Kings the win, but he's another reason why the Kings were once again good enough to be in it, but not good enough to actually win it. The Kings bench, though, really, really good in this game. I already talked about the performance of Buddy Hield. The Kings outscored the Jazz bench 41-19, and that's with just 3 bench players playing versus 5 bench players for the Utah Jazz. So that's very impressive. 2 back-to-back good games for the Kings bench. Remember, this is the Kings bench that kept the Kings in the game when they were getting beaten up pretty bad in the first quarter against the Dallas Mavericks. So they've played very, very well. Unfortunately, though, free throws continue to cost the Kings. 17 of 24 for 70% from the line. The Jazz also shot 70% from the line, but the Kings leave 7 points at the free throw line. They lose by 6. That, in addition to the second chance points, that's a big difference in the game. Kings shot just under 40% from 3-point range, significantly better than they shot against Dallas, 12 of 31. But still, that is not enough. So now, of course, we have to talk about the play of De'Aaron Fox. And we're going to get to that. Another disappointing performance for De'Aaron. I know many are concerned with just the eye test, how De'Aaron looks. He just does not look comfortable. We will get into that. Right now, though, I want to let you know that today's podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks has the best NBA daily fantasy sports prop game on the market. Prize Picks offers more NBA props than any other daily fantasy sports prop operator and offers all the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. So you can bet on the non-primary players. If you know or have a good idea of what the numbers of Alex Len are going to be off the bench, you can bet on that with Prize Picks. Prize Picks offers any prop that you can think of, from points scored to field goal percentage to assist to turnover ratio. All of it. All of our Locked On Kings listeners that deposit and use promo code NBA can receive a 100% instant match up to $100. Again, make sure you use promo code NBA to take advantage of that offer. And here's how Prize Picks works. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, their projected stats. You can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. You don't have to worry about beating anybody else. Prize Picks allows mixed sport entries. You can take a Kings game and like the World Series numbers tonight, which also congratulations to the Atlanta Braves for beating the Houston Astros in the World Series. You can hear about that game on the Locked On MLB podcast. You can hear about that game on Locked On Braves, hear from the Astros, the losers, on Locked On Astros, by the way. And make sure you use the award-winning app, Prize Picks app, on the App Store and Google Play to go and play right now. Again, use promo code NBA to get that deposit match up to $100. Make some money. Let me know how you do. Send me your victories because you'll probably have a better record than I have. I haven't been doing pretty good, but Prize Picks is fun. I always enjoy it. I think you will too. There's De'Aaron Fox struggling to put up numbers. And then there's the eye test of De'Aaron Fox not looking comfortable. And that's really what stood out to me more than the goose egg, the 0 points in the first half for De'Aaron. Watching him play in this game, he just doesn't look comfortable. Now, also credit to the Utah Jazz. Their interior defense, when you have Rudy Gobert roaming the paint, it's naturally going to be difficult for a player who likes to score around the rim like De'Aaron to have a good game. So it's not all on De'Aaron. It's also on the Utah Jazz defense, who know how to play against him and guard him effectively. But what we're used to seeing from De'Aaron, handling the basketball, passing the basketball, his decision-making, his scoring around the rim, his swagger, his confidence, it just doesn't seem to be there. Now, full credit to De'Aaron. He's fighting through it. He's not hanging his head. He had a couple moments in this game that I actually really applaud De'Aaron. And I'm going to talk about those in a second here. But 0 points at half, 13 points on the night, 4 of 15 shooting. I mean, this is now every single game this season, De'Aaron has failed to make more than 9 field goals. Has not had a double-digit field goal game at any point this season. That is very uncharacteristic of De'Aaron Fox, especially when he's putting high teens to low 20s in field goals up on a nightly basis. He's taking a lot of shots and he's making very few of them. It's not just his three-point percentage that's been struggling. He was 0-4 from three-point range tonight. It's his field goal percentage as a whole. And Fox's field goal percentage has always been in the mid to high 40s throughout his career. He's really, really struggling to score. And it's floaters in the lane that he just doesn't have that normal touch. It's stop and pop jumpers from mid-range, which actually is the first shot that he hit and what got him going in the second half a little bit. And really, it's handling the basketball. Like, I know the Sacramento Kings are using a new ball, and I think Jason Anderson not the Sacramento Kings, the NBA. They're using a new ball. They're using a Wilson ball this year. And Jason Anderson actually asked Tyrese Haliburton about that, and you'll hear him talk about it. I guess it's a narrative that can be different for players, but Tyrese seemed to brush it off and not make a big deal about it. I don't know if that has anything to do with De'Aaron's inability to handle the basketball, but even when he's like playing his game, he's at his best, he's getting out in transition. There are two separate situations in the second half where Fox was trying to press the issue, get out in transition, attack the basket, use his speed, and he outran the basketball. He couldn't keep the basket. He couldn't keep possession. He couldn't keep his handles with that speed like he normally does. That to me suggests that this is more than just a shooting funk for De'Aaron. This is a shooting funk mixed with a confidence issue, mixed with a discomfort level. He just doesn't look comfortable. And I know I've brought this up before. We haven't heard De'Aaron say anything about it. We haven't heard anybody say anything about it. I think I'm the only one that's really brought this up. De'Aaron had COVID-19 at the end of last season. We know COVID-19 has had long-term effects on players. It had a long-term effect on Jason Tatum. Buddy Hield struggled with it for a while coming back from it when he had it right before the Orlando bubble. I am not a doctor, and since nobody else is talking about it, I'm not going to put too much stock into my own thought process. But I think it's interesting that Fox is struggling this much and hasn't looked like himself since going down with COVID. Just something to think about and put in the back of your mind. There's no excuse to be made for De'Aaron. He's just not playing well. He's not playing well. And once again, the Kings were in a position to win this game. And had they had a typical De'Aaron Fox performance, they probably win this game. You're losing by just 6 points. Fox makes only 4 of 15 field goal attempts. You double that. 8 field goal attempts. That's 8 more points. Unless some of them are threes. Kings win the game. Simple math there. Now, of course, that's not how things work. But I mean, if we want to simplify it as much as possible, it's not that Fox would be taking points away from others. He's taking those shots. He's just missing those shots. He starts making those shots. The Kings are winning more of these games. The Kings are definitely not 3-4 if De'Aaron Fox is making them, not necessarily the majority, just a higher percentage of his shots at his normal percentage, at his normal mid to high 40s percentage from field goal. Kings are 4-3 probably, maybe even 5-2. De'Aaron is just struggling, and the team continues to put him in a position to succeed. Credit to them. Credit to Luke Walton. The Kings fought hard. They're a significantly better team this year than they are last year, even with their stars struggling. And what excites me is I know De'Aaron is going to figure this out. And when he does figure this out, I hope everybody else, Harrison Barnes is continuing to play well. Buddy Hield has been continuing to play well. And by the way, speaking of Buddy Hield, I got to give him full credit because Buddy has been playing very well off the bench. He's embraced his new role. He has sometimes some poor shot selection, but his distribution has gotten better. His ball handling has gotten better. Defensively, he's not an absolute nightmare. He's made some mistakes, had some breakdowns. That's going to happen from time to time, but he hasn't been absolutely exposed. Like Buddy Hield's been very solid off the bench, so I have to give him full credit. But I'm hoping those guys will continue to play well. Davion Mitchell will continue to play well when Fox starts playing well, because the last thing this Kings team needs is for Fox to wake up, the others start to drop off, and the Kings are still in this kind of hovering around 500 position, losing winnable games because now Fox suddenly doesn't have as much help as maybe he would have this early in the season. I do want to say there are things about this game from De'Aaron Fox that I have to get props to, though. First off, even when Fox isn't scoring, he still has his reputation. He still draws a crowd. Rudy Gobert, Hassan Whiteside, whoever's down low for the Utah Jazz, as soon as Fox gets anywhere near the paint, they shift over to meet him at the rim. As soon as Fox gets by a guard, another two step forward to try and cut him off. Even with 0 points, Fox is getting that kind of treatment. That reputation allows opportunities for Fox's teammates. So rather than just take him out of the game because he's not playing well, you keep him in the game even if he's not scoring, because that opens up opportunities for others. And to Fox's credit, he had 9 assists in this game. 9 assists, also 3 steals. So he did well on the defensive end. Did foul out of this game in the fourth quarter. That's not really that big of a deal. It's not excusing his poor performances on offense. And somehow tonight he was still a plus minus on the floor. So he was effective outside of scoring the basketball. 0 points at halftime absolutely cannot happen. 13 points total absolutely cannot happen if you expect to beat a team like the Utah Jazz. Not excusing that. But Fox was still able to be effective while on the floor. And there was one play in particular that you don't see a lot of stars do in the NBA when they're struggling. De'Aaron Fox misses another shot at the end of the second quarter. Either missed a shot or turned the ball over. I can't remember. I think he missed a shot. Yeah, he misses a shot. The Utah Jazz are coming back the other way. They fumble it. There's a loose ball. Fox dives on the floor, doesn't quit on the play, isn't pouting, isn't complaining, dives on the floor, gets possession, throws it ahead to Harrison Barnes for an and one. He hits the free throw. The Kings take a 1-point lead into halftime. That right there is a leadership moment for De'Aaron, because even when he's struggling, even when he's not scoring, he still is giving the extra effort, making that hustle play to help his teammates. Fox is not a vocal scream at you leader. He's always been a leader by example. That is a perfect moment right there. Even on a night where Fox offensively is not himself, he's struggling, clearly struggling. He's still willing to dive on the floor, fight in the trenches, and get a loose ball out to his teammate for an and one. Those are winning basketball plays. And moments like that are what continue to give me confidence that De'Aaron is going to figure this out. So that was a uplifting moment for me in this game after his easily worst first half of the season. And that's saying something, because he's had some pretty rough halves so far this year. Last thing I wanted to point out when it comes to De'Aaron Fox, he had 3 turnovers in this game. 2 out of the 3 of them came in the fourth quarter when he was trying to play some 2-man game with Richaun Holmes, and he threw 2 passes intended for Richaun that Richaun wasn't ready for. And the thing that stood out to me there is, remember the 2-man game at the end of the Dallas Mavericks game or was it the Pelicans game? It might have been the Pelicans game between Tyrese Haliburton and Richaun Holmes. Those two are on a very similar wavelength. They play very well together. And to Tyrese Haliburton's credit, he makes most bigs that he plays with in the pick and roll better. But De'Aaron Fox and Richaun Holmes, they didn't appear to be on that same wavelength. That can be a little concerning. I expect more out of your starting point guard and your starting center when your starting point guard is a star and Richaun is one of the most reliable players on this team. I expect them to clean that up. That needs to get better. I just thought it was very apparent, the differences in the 2-man game and the connection between Halliburton and Holmes versus Fox and Holmes. So wanted to make sure I got that in there. Coming up next, you're going to hear from Sacramento Kings head coach Luke Walton, his thoughts on this game, his thoughts on De'Aaron Fox's struggles. Plus, you're going to hear Tyrese Haliburton stand up for De'Aaron Fox, talk about, like I mentioned, the new Wilson ball, and if that has an effect on how Fox is playing. That's all coming up right here on Locked On Kings. Before that, though, want to thank another sponsor here of Locked On Kings, Shopify. In case you didn't know, Shopify is a complete commerce platform that lets you start, grow, and manage a business. The subscription-based software allows anyone to set up an online store and sell their products. Shopify store owners can also sell in physical locations using Shopify POS, our point-of-sale app, and accompanying hardware. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big businesses alone, so upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility, and Shopify helps you make your entrepreneurial dreams come true. Shopify powers over 1.7 million businesses from first sale to full scale, reaching customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integration and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. Go to shopify.com/lockedonnba, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/lockedonnba right now. Again, all lowercase, shopify.com/lockedonnba. In addition to Prize Picks, BetOnline is another great way for you to make money with your Sacramento Kings, NBA, or general sports knowledge. BetOnline is back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of basketball season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. From basketball to football, baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Here's Sacramento Kings head coach Luke Walton.
Well, yeah, I'll start by saying that, again, I love the fight of our team. It's really fun coaching these guys, and we're learning these hard lessons, and I hope we figure it out soon, but the details of the games is what's costing us right now. Tonight it was defensive rebounding, and not from their bigs. It was our guards not boxing out. It just killed us. We didn't knock down free throws. They did knock down free throws. We missed open looks. They hit open looks. But the fight of our group is great, and I love coaching these guys. But we're going to keep taking tough losses until we can clean up some of the details, what people call the little things of the game. We're going to get better at it.
Yeah, Luke, De'Aaron had another rough shooting night. I think he started 0 for 9. Just at this point, how much do you just need him to keep grinding and trying to shoot his way out of this and having his teammates try to get him easier looks and stuff?
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Like, De'Aaron's a very, very talented player. He knows how important he is to us. And, when you're struggling, the best way out of it is work harder, grind more, fight through it, believe in what you're doing, believe in your teammates. And I have all the faith in the world that De'Aaron will do that.
Yeah, Coach Walton, yes, he has been incredibly some close games. But what to me stands out that no one try to play out a character. They stay within the team goal, is trying to, play team ball and win these games. Have you been noticing that? And that's something that, you like that's going forward, even though, you're coming up short in some of these games, but they are playing together.
Yeah, Tony, it's a great point. And I wanted to be very clear. I'm as frustrated as I am right now. It has nothing to do with how hard the team is playing and how together the team is playing. It has everything to do with being the attention to detail and really, because I want our guys to feel that when you play as hard as they're playing, you should win games. And when you don't give yourself the best chance, you feel for the group. And as a coach and from the outside, you can see it more. You can see it happening as the game's going. So to your point, Tony, they're doing an incredible job of playing the roles we need them to play. They're doing an incredible job of playing together, and they're playing incredibly hard every single night. And that's a really good foundation. We just have to continue to clean up things along the way.
Hey, Luke, you mentioned earlier about hard lessons learned. This is the second time against Utah that you guys have been in it in the fourth quarter, and all 4 losses this season had a chance to win. Teams like Utah, what do they do to know how to close out these games and close out these games more often than not? And how do you develop that for your own team?
You got to go through it. You got to go through it. You got to be in big moments and come out the other side. It's not like this happened overnight for Utah. This is something that, they've been through the battles. This regular season game to them, they're relaxed, calm, and they thrive in this situation. They've been in game 7s. They've been in the playoffs for however many straight years. Like, that's where we need our group to get to. But really, they're whether it was Conley or Mitchell tonight, they were breaking us down. And as soon as they're built for a team, once they break you down and they got a 7-footer rolling to the rim and they got, dead eye shooters out there, it's tough to stop them. That's why they're really good. But even with all that said, we were right there fighting and scrapping. So give them credit. But the best way to get better in those situations is to live through them but we have to learn from our mistakes. But it never happens overnight. We all want it to. It takes time.
Hey, Luke, looking at these first 7 games, does it seem like a lot of Fox's shots that he's getting are like kind of the step back and the followaways and the floaters that are hanging? Is there a little degree of difficulty on some of these shots that maybe is not necessary?
No, we dove into the numbers on it. A lot of it looks very similar to past years. And with Jason, what you got to understand, until he starts making some shots, every team that we play, they're going to go under every pick and roll. The bigs are going to be walled up because of his speed. They're already going to wall up in transition. So, we trust him. And at the end of the day, we're our team. We have a good team, but we need De'Aaron to make those shots. So we're not going to tell him to stop taking them. We're going to encourage him, but he's still, we need him to get to the rim. We need him to draw to. We need him to create. And when they go under, he's got to be able to open up the floor for us. And he's capable of it, and he knows he is, and he'll get to it.
Do you like his shot selection up to this point?
I love everything about De'Aaron Fox.
Hey, Luke, you ran an 8-man rotation tonight. Did you put any thought at all into tomorrow night's game? And does an 8-man rotation tonight in your mind have any effect on tomorrow night's back-to-back?
Yeah, we'll see how we're feeling tomorrow. Look, we were in a dogfight out there tonight, and those guys were, I thought Mo gave us great minutes. I thought the rotations were guys were playing well together, and we were trying to win tonight. And we're not going to sacrifice tonight, to get ready for tomorrow when we're in a fight. If we were down 20, maybe we pull the troops out earlier than normal. But in a one possession game, we're going to win, and then we're going to try to win again tomorrow against New Orleans. Depending on how people are feeling and bodies are, maybe that rotation gets bigger, and everyone on our team has to be ready to step in and play if that's the case.
Now let's hear from a audibly and visibly frustrated Tyrese Haliburton.
Hey, Ty, tough loss, but you've played with De'Aaron for a year now. Just what are you seeing from him and him trying to fight through this rough patch early in the season?
He's fine. He's missing some shots, but that's part of it. We all go through these little slumps. It happens to everybody. I think it's being made a bigger deal than it is. I'm not concerned by any means. It's just a slump right now. And, we're his teammates. We're going to help him get out of it. We come here and he doesn't play very well. And we still almost beat, one of the best teams in the West. So, it's blown out of proportion in my eyes, and he'll be just fine.
Hey, Ty, building off of something that you said right there, still had a chance tonight, second time against the Utah Jazz, one of the best teams in the West, had a chance to beat them. And all 4 of these losses this season, you guys have been right there. What lessons have you learned about what this team needs to do to get over that proverbial hump to find a way to win these games versus maybe when you were in this situation your rookie season last year?
Yeah, just figuring it out. A lot of these games are going to come down to those last 5 minutes. We knew it the whole night that tonight was going to come down to those last 5 minutes, and down the stretch they made plays and we didn't. It's as simple as that. We're learning. I've said that before. I think multiple guys have said it, but that's just a part of it. If we want to, go on to be successful and go on to, do the things that we want to do, we're going to have to be able to finish games. And right now we're figuring that out, and obviously we haven't figured it out yet, but in due time.
Yeah, Ty, I know this is only your second year, but you're there every day. Just how much better is this team right now than where you guys were 7 games into last season? Because it seems like you're 100%, like from watching it from my angle, just as far as defensively, rotations, everything looks way better than it was last year.
Yeah, I think we just had a good sense of urgency. Throughout camp, throughout the summer, so far I start this season. We worked really hard this summer. So, as soon as the season ended, we knew what we had to get better at, and that's what we did. And, there's still a lot of room for us to grow. We know we can still be better defensively. I feel like we've been good for, I think 3.5 quarters of every game this year. And, we got to find a way to, do that for 4 quarters and close games out.
Hey, Ty, there's been some discussion today about the new Wilson basketball I'm wondering, from your perspective, does it feel different? What's your reaction to the new ball? And are you hearing other guys make, comments about it as well?
No difference.
Nothing at all?
Nah, it's a basketball. You play with it for a week, you're used to it. Things being blown out of proportion, but, teach their own.
Now you've heard from Coach Walton. You've heard from Tyrese. Now I want to hear from you, your thoughts on this 3-4 start for the Kings, positives versus negatives from this loss in Utah, your concern level with De'Aaron Fox. Are you freaking out? Are you like me where you still have faith in the guy? Let me know where you're at right now. And also tomorrow night's performance against the New Orleans Pelicans might have a lot to do with our moods and if we change our mind or not. If the Kings get a win tomorrow night, all is well. But again, we'll see how this 8-man rotation tonight for Luke Walton and the Kings, how that has an effect, if at all, on the Kings' rotations and how the Kings play against the Pelicans, who are going to be looking for revenge. It's not going to be an easy game for the Kings by any means, even with them at home, and they've yet to win a game at home so far this season. So an important game happening tomorrow night. Your thoughts going into that game, let me know at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you could leave a review for Locked On Kings, I really would appreciate that. Best place to do is Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Hit 5 stars, leave a little blurb about what you like about the podcast, any constructive criticism that you may have, why you would encourage others, Kings fans or just NBA fans, to listen to Locked On Kings. And make sure you go and check out the rest of the great content all over the Locked On Podcast Network. Baseball, football, basketball, national shows, betting, college, we have it all. So go and check that out. But remember to keep Locked On Kings as your first listen every single day. Can't wait to have you join me after tomorrow night's game. Win or lose, we'll be talking about the Kings and Pelicans. So join me for that. Until then, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.